Hi YouTube family, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. Today, y'all, I want to talk about the workplace and toxic coworkers and what to identify in toxic coworkers so that you'll know when you meet one. So that's something that you think you will be interested in. Stick around and let's get into it, shall we? First of all, I want to start off by saying I want to share some of the tips, not tips, but some of the things I've seen over the years by being in the workforce. And I wish someone had told me these things when I first started out, very, very young. So if you're new to the workforce, or if you're naive like I was, and just learn these things in my later years in life, stick around and stay tuned, and we're going to talk about those things. First of all, especially too, this also would apply when you start a new job. Whenever you start a new job or a new position, or you're around new people, in any way, in that capacity, in the work capacity. Well, this also going to spill into personal life, but we're going to just keep it for argument's sake, or well, I'm sorry, not argument, for video's sake. We're just going to keep it strictly for work. Okay. So with work, when you're new to the workplace, or you run into someone who's new, and for the first time, and that person is just super super friendly, and they're just chatty Cathy, and they just seem to be so nice. Okay. Let that be a red flag. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to sound like a negative Nancy. Everybody you run into that's nice does not fit into this toxic coworker category, okay? But for the sake of this video, just hang in there with me, okay? So the person's really, really nice. They're friendly. They appear to be so kind. They're outgoing. They know everything, about the workplace. They might be one of these people that show you around. They know everybody. Everybody knows them. They appear to, really, really care about you. When they chat with you, they'll get really, really personable. They'll ask you questions about yourself, about your family. And everybody seems to like this person, right? Everybody seems to like them because they're so nice. Okay. And whenever you see this person, they always have people around them, or they're always, at somebody's desk and chatting it up. And, they're just very, very sociable and likable. And they're also complimentary. They will compliment you, on your clothing or your looks, or, oh, have you lost weight? That type of person. They're just always very flattering, to you, right? And they also make you comfortable. They make you comfortable so that you're open up to them, and that you'll tell them stuff, right? So I'm pretty sure you've run into this type of person. So just hang in there. So you're probably saying, well, what's the problem, right? We're going to get into that in just a second. So this person is really, really nice, but after you get to know them and you see how they operate, then the truth comes out, right? The truth comes out, and their true colors start to show, right? What they will do is they will tell lies. They will tell lies on you, and they will tell lies on other people. And they will pretend to be your friend. So this is why they're so nice, right? And they're friendly, because they might even call you their friend. They might call you their buddy, but they're just so nice and friendly, right? For an example, they'll say nice things. Okay, so for example, they will say nice things. It may be like them, and then when it comes time to, how they send a little card around for everybody to sign, or, contribute, they ask you to contribute money or something like that. And they might say, you know, they may say, just the opposite, like to you or somebody else, and say, well, I didn't like them, or I'm not going to give money. I'm not going to give money to, to their going away. I don't think they deserve it. That kind of thing. So they'll say one thing, but then do another. They'll do just the opposite. Another thing that they'll do is they will gossip about you, and they will gossip about other people. And what they do is they get friendly, because what they do is they will go and they'll go tell your business, right? So they open up to you and they're friendly to you, hoping that you will be the same to them, that you open up and tell your business, and then they go tell everybody else what you just said, and when you confide in them. And then they'll do the same thing with other people. Other people will confide in them, and then they'll come to you and tell people, their business, what other people have, have told them in confidence. So they'll do that, okay? That's another thing you got to watch out for. Um, Yeah, and they would, oftentimes they'll do this unsolicited. Like they'll tell you stuff just out of the blue when like you never even asked, or, didn't really care to know, right? They'll just tell you something out of the blue. Oh, well, so-and-so did such and such. And you kind of like look at look at it like, you're not going to be rude, but you'll be saying to yourself, so like, why would I care? So, I mean, they'll just do stuff like that. So just be on the lookout. Really, really toxic. They will also use what you tell them against you. Like if you confide in them and, tell them something, say, hey, don't tell anybody else. They'll use that against you later. So when you have people like that, don't tell them something that you don't mind it getting out, right? So in other words, if you do tell them something, just automatically assume it's not in confidence, okay? Just automatically assume whatever you tell them that they're going to go and repeat it. So, yeah, just be on the lookout for that, okay? Another thing that they'll do, they are oftentimes informants to leadership, right? So what they'll do is they will, they'll often come to you and say, they'll just out of the blue, they'll just say something negative, maybe about leadership, or maybe ask you, what do you think about leadership, or a supervisor, or, something to that effect, or a work lead or something. And then what they're doing is that they're trying to get you to say something negative back so they can go and tell it. So don't fall for that. As I said in that movie, I forget the name of the movie, but don't fall for the banana in the tailpipe. Okay? So if they start talking negatively about leadership, just change the subject, or just nod your head, but just don't feed into it. Don't say anything back. Don't feed into it. Okay, so that's another thing that they'll get you on. They'll burn you on. And then another thing that they do is they will twist your words. You'll say something and they will completely twist it, and they'll go tell other people you said something that you didn't even say. Or they'll take it out of context, right? So just be careful with that. Yeah, be careful what you say around them at all times. But if they say come to you and they say something that you said and you know that it's taken out of context, correct them right there on the spot and say, wait a minute, that's not what I said, because I've had to do that. So just be careful with that also. And then this goes back to what I was saying about leadership, how, they'll brown nose and they'll kiss up to the leadership. And, that's just, and then, they'll do that. They'll brown nose and kiss up to leadership. But then in the same breath, they'll turn around and complain to you, about the leadership, and want you to get in a conversation with them about leadership so you can agree and say, oh, yeah, I agree. But don't fall for that either. Because what they'll do is they'll take what you said and then they'll go right back and tell the boss. And then they won't tell the boss what they said, right? So just be careful with that. Whenever you see somebody, just all buddy buddies with the leadership or supervisors or whatever, and then they turn around and then talk crap about them behind their back. Yeah, don't fall for that. That's another thing that they'll do. And basically, yeah, and then they'll go, again, like I said earlier, they'll pretend to be your friend. So these are some of the basic things that you need to look out for. Especially the over, I think the biggest red flag is the over friendly part. Oversharing and being over friendly. Just be super, super careful when you run into people like that. And I think you'll be okay. Because we all, we have to work, we have to go to work. I know we hate it, we hate the 9 to 5, we hate the grind, but we got to do it. But I think some of these things that I mentioned, and I don't know, I might do a series on this, and these things in particular that I mentioned about toxic people, I think if we know how to navigate them and we educate ourselves about them, then I think that would help make our job a little bit easier. Going to the workplace a little bit easier when you don't. Well, you're going to have to deal with these type of people. There's no way around it. But at least you'll be educated and you'll have the tools and things to know, and you won't be walking into it blindly. With these types of people, you'll know, like, oh yeah, I saw that on YouTube. I heard about people like you. But yeah, I wish somebody had shared this with me because I had to learn the hard way how people were. If you know somebody, like I said, new to the workforce, or if you knew yourself, drop me a comment and let me know if you guys have run into people like this and to situations like this. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.